Hello, happy Friday. Now, you might notice something a little different from usual, which is that I don't have a glass of wine in my hand, but I've just been drinking too much lately. So today I am drinking tea by myself, which is just as good, I think. So this Friday, I'm going to talk about my favourite books that I have never read, which you might think makes no sense, but bear with me. A few years ago, I picked up for the very first time the book copy of The Princess Bride, and I have seen that movie maybe a million times and I adore it, so I was very, very nervous to read the book. It's the same feeling that I usually get watching the film of a book I love, but the other way around, which was very unusual. But all of my worries were appeased from the second I opened it, because the first line of that novel is, "This is my favourite book in all the world, though I have never read it." And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's how I feel. And then I was thinking about it and I realised that that line actually applies to quite a lot of books, usually because I've seen the movie and I loved it, but there's a few reasons why I might adore a book but actually never have read it. And I don't think this is totally unusual, but maybe it's just me being weird, I don't know, let me know. But anyway, here are 7 of my favourite books in all the world, though I have never read them. Number 1, A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Or Burnett? What do you think? I grew up with the movie of A Little Princess, and I cry every time, and it's just one of my favourites. I love it. But it's actually based on a book written by the same author who wrote The Secret Garden and other childhood classics, which I also haven't read. But I kind of feel like I have a connection with this author anyway, Frances whatever we think her surname is, because she grew up literally just around the corner from where I grew up, in a house that has, wait for it, a secret garden. So The Secret Garden is based on a real story about a house just around the corner from where I lived. And I don't know why I'm not saying The Secret Garden is one of my favourite books I've never read, but there's something about A Little Princess that just captured my heart, and I know that I would love the book if I read it, but what if I don't? So I'm too scared to read it. If anyone has read A Little Princess, please let me know if you liked it, if it lives up to the magical film. If it's better than the film, it's probably better than the film, isn't it? Though I don't know how a book could capture that heartbreaking moment where her father suddenly remembers her and he dashes out in the rain and calls her name, and it's just movie magic. Number 2, The Parent Trap. And this is the only one of these that I actually own a copy of, so I have no excuse not to read it, especially as it's so short. Again, this is because The Parent Trap is one of my all-time favourite movies. I can quote every line of that film. I can even quote every line of the adverts that came before it on the VHS that we had growing up. There was an advert for DVD and there was an advert for Mulan, and I've just seen it probably more times than any other film. But it's actually based on a German book called Das Doppelte Lottchen. I have no idea if that's the right pronunciation. I also don't know if that actually translates as The Parent Trap, who knows? But I have the translated copy right here, and it's about 2 twins called Louise and Lottie, not Harry and Annie, but I knew that because I know that in the movie version they're named after the director's children, I think. But anyway, different names, and I don't know how much else of the story is the same, but I really feel like I need to find out. Number 3, I have a weird fascination with the book Psycho, because apparently when it came out, Alfred Hitchcock liked it so much that he instantly bought the film rights and bought up every available copy of the novel because he didn't want anyone in the public to be able to read it and then have the ending spoiled for them before they saw his movie. I don't know if that's true, but it's a great story, and now I really want to read that book and see what it was that Alfred Hitchcock read and was like, I must have this. So that's one that I've always wanted to read, and I feel like it's one of my favourite books because it has such a great story behind it. But no, I've never read it. I don't know if it's any good in the slightest. Number 4, Jaws by Peter Benchley. I am mortally terrified of sharks. I don't swim in the sea, like ever, not even in England, because you never know if there might be sharks there. I literally will get scared in the swimming pool. I sometimes have to get out of the swimming pool because I think there might be a shark. One time I even got out of the bath because my sister walked past outside and started singing the Jaws theme tune. I can't handle sharks. And yet, I have a weird fascination with the Jaws movie. I watched it again and again growing up. I made all my friends watch it. I just loved it. Even though it would terrify me and I would have nightmares, I loved it. It's like how, you know, if you're scared of spiders or snakes, there's something weirdly exciting about looking at them in a cage or something enclosed. Even though I get shivers all down my spine, it's like, I want to look at them. But zoos are bad, kids. For that same reason, I loved Jaws. And the second I found out it was based on a book, I've just known that it is my destiny to read that book. But I'm very, very scared because books can be way more terrifying than films. You know, in films, however gory or gross or scary or jumpy something is, That's it. You've seen it, you've seen what happens. Whereas in a book, it's left to your imagination, so you can make it so much worse. So I am genuinely afraid for my mental health if I read Jaws the book. I might never have a bath again. And if I read Psycho 2, I can never have a shower again, so this is going to be a problem. Number 5. The Talented Mr. Ripley by, I can't remember her name, Patricia something. Patricia Highsmith. If it's Patricia Highsmith, I'm going to be impressed. If it isn't, I'm going to cut that out. Now again, I've seen the movie version of The Talented Mr. Ripley multiple times. But whenever people talk about the book, I always find myself being like, oh my god, yeah, I love that book. And then I have to remind myself that I've never read it. And for some reason, I'm finding it really hard to get it into my brain that I've never read the book. It just feels like a book that I would have read and enjoyed because I love the movie. So if you ever see me at a bookshop, remind me that I haven't read that book and I need to get hold of it. My sister's even read that book and she said it was really good. So I know I'd like it. I love creepy stuff like that. I love the character of Tom Ripley from the movie. There's no good reason for me not to love this book. So I will forever include it in my favourite books, and I will forever forget that I haven't actually read it. Number 6 is a very new addition to this list, and it's a book that I know nothing about, so I can't tell you anything about it, but it's called Love and a Dozen Roast Potatoes. I saw it in the airport and I just completely fell in love with that title, but I already had 15 books in my suitcase, so I just knew I was not allowed to buy any more books. But that was about 3 weeks ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. Love and a Dozen Roast Potatoes. I mean, that would be one of my favourite books. I just know it would. I don't know who it's by, what it's about. Has anyone read this book? Please tell me. My tea still hasn't cooled down in the time it took to film this whole video, so that will be a treat for afterwards. Okay, and number 7, possibly the weirdest thing on this list, Where the Wild Things Are. Now before you gasp, I might have read this book. I probably read this book at some time, but I definitely haven't read it enough times to justify how obsessed I am with this book. I love the name and the cover and the pictures, and I love Max's little onesie. When I look at the pictures of the monsters, I feel all cozy and safe, but I don't remember ever reading the book. I even own a Where the Wild Things Are t-shirt. Look how pretty it is! I watched every trailer for the movie on repeat. I went to see it pretty much the day it came out, but I'm just not sure I ever read it. When I was watching the movie, I even remember being like, I didn't know that this was what that book was about. Because I just didn't know what it was about, because I don't think I ever read it. But there is just a part of me that knows with all my heart that it is one of my favourite books of all time. I don't know how else to explain that. So those were 7 of my favourite books in all the world, though I have never read any of them. Please let me know if you have read some of them and if they're any good. I would love to know. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I make new videos every Monday and Friday. And you can follow me other places on the internet, all of my social links coming up next. Now it's tea time. Harry Potter wants you to get your cervical smear test. What on earth does Harry Potter have to do with your vagina? Well, there are multiple answers to that question. Open the Chamber of Secrets,